Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's presentation, I would like to give you a very important thing, and it's going to be about scholarship interview. In particular, I would like to focus on commonly asked questions. So, welcome to College Expedition. In my presentation today, I would like to give you some important ways to guide you to prepare for scholarship interview. Maybe right now you are waiting for your turn to get a call from scholarship committee and you have no idea how to prepare yourself to be able to face an interview smoothly. And this is what this video is all about. And here I would like to give you some guidelines to lead you to a better interview. Okay, let me start now. So, for some of you who have been trying scholarship a couple times, this question should be very familiar to you. In other words, you have known or you have read this question before. Tell me about yourself. But for some of you who might be the first time to try for a scholarship and you are looking for an opportunity to get to the next step for an interview, this question looks scary. And if you don't have a good preparation to answer this question, I believe you won't be able to get a scholarship. Many people fail to answer these questions appropriately. Maybe they have written in a very well organized essays, but then they get stuck and feel anxious and they have no idea what to tell. And they got, stuck not knowing what to give an answer for the committee. And the committee of the scholarship, they are actually waiting your very brief answer so that they can understand who you are. But if you cannot tell who you are, then you are pretty likely to fail the scholarship you are intending. So let me tell you how to prepare yourself to be able to answer this question not only correctly but also appropriately. Okay, let's just get it to the topic. All right, I'll show you how to answer this question. As you can see here, there are a couple points right here where you really have to pay attention when you include your answer. First, look at this one, long-term goal. So when you want to answer this question, think about your long-term goal. Who do you want to become in the future? So long-term means something that is fixed for you to do in the future as your professional job. So for example, I want to become a psychologist. So this is long term. Then next step, you have to think about short-term goal. So short-term goal is something that might be about what you have done in order to lead you to become a psychologist. So in this context, maybe in your undergraduate degree, you already have completed, a major in psychology if you are applying for a master study. And then the next step, which is the third one, you have to think about your accomplishment or your achievement. What have you got in the past that shows you have the credibility to become psychologist? So in this example, I give an example that, for example, I received first nomination for national research competition in psychology. So this is just one of the many examples. You can think about your own example. Think about, for example, if you have written in national local newspaper. So consider that as accomplishment. Or maybe you have written a couple of your articles or writing and get published to international newspaper, for example. Those would be a very good example of accomplishment. And you also can include something uh, whenever you think that is, appropriate in this context and relevant to be put here. Next one, which is the fourth one, you have to think about values. So in this example, engage in social activities to help communities. In other words, if I want to limit my explanation to only one word, this would mean volunteering. So if you like to help communities, this would be something that you would like to do as your core values. You contribute. So in another very simple word to say here is your contribution could be to your society or people who are around you, that you do to contribute something to your very close communities, for example. So this is only one example. You can think about your own examples. And the last one is regarding personality. So personality means here something you do aside from your academic activities. So for example here, long term, short term should have to do with something related to your academic. But then if you think of personality, you have to think about something you enjoy doing aside from your academic activities. So in this example, I enjoy writing, or if you enjoy doing some hobbies, you can tell here, as long as your hobbies are something, uh, meaningful to, to give your, to give you positive environment for you. So think about it. Okay, don't worry. I will show you some example. This is one very basic example that you can think of. So this is the example. So here is the sample answer and how it looks to incorporate those four things in your answer. Okay, let me read it so that you can actually see this. You can see it by yourself right here, and I put it in different colors to show you the points that I have mentioned earlier. So for example here, let me read it. I have been in love with psychology since I was in high school. This has led me to choose psychology as a my major to prepare myself to be a future researcher. Besides, I joined a competition last year and won the first place for a selected research paper in learning anxiety. Although I spend most of my time reading papers, I usually like to write articles for my personal blog, or on weekends, I join our local community's youth program where I volunteer to teach basic writing skill for teens. So look at this very first introduction, first two lines. So psychology here is, if you realize, this is, you know what? This is something that I told you regarding short, you know, short and long term and short term. So this is short term, okay? So psychology. And then look at the next one. Let me to choose psychology as my major to prepare myself to be a future researcher. So a future researcher is equal to being a psychologist. Okay, so you can also write here to be a psychologist. Or in another word, if you are aiming for something higher, you can think of becoming a future researcher. And look at the next line here. Besides, I join a competition. So a competition here has to do with your achievement. So two lines here talk about your achievement. And then if you look at the next one, although I spend most of my time reading papers, so reading papers has to do with the academics thing. But then I usually like to write articles. So writing articles has to do with your, the one that you love doing aside from your academic stuff. So like, if you love writing for your personal blogs, and also you do something like volunteering here, local communities. So it has to do with values. So here is your values. So this is this is one very basic example of how you would come up with a very, very great answer when a question has to do, or when you are faced with a questions of tell me about yourself. So I would like to remind you, don't tell about yourself and then you provide answer that very specific about your age, your names, your background, your educational background. You don't have to tell that because the interview committee, they already have those information included in your TV or in your resume. So, in other words, you don't have to tell that because they already know that. They want to know more about you. And this is an answer that tells more about yourself, what you love to do, who do you want to become, whether you want to contribute, what are those contributions that you would like to offer in the future whenever you complete your study. This is the thing that you would like to know. The examiner or the scholarship committee would like to know from you and would like to dig out more about you. So you cannot only answer, I come from a suburb kind of environment. I have 3 kids or something like that. It has so it's very personal. You don't have to tell that. They don't want to find out that kind of information. They want to know more about yourself, your academic achievement, what you have done in your community or something like that. So again, think about that. Okay, let's go next to another kind of questions that you often are asked in your interview. Okay, check this out. What is your greatest strength or weakness? Okay, this is also pretty common for interviewer to ask interviewee, okay, or to ask applicants about their own strength and also weakness. And you realize that this question is tough. This is very difficult question. So you cannot only tell that, for example, what is your strength? Maybe you are good at this, and this. But then what is your weakness? This even is a lot more difficult for you to answer. And I'll show you some of tips and tricks to answer this question. Okay, so these are some useful tips for you to prepare. One thing that you have to do is that you have to include examples. Okay, give examples whenever you talk about your strength. The reason is that you don't want to just talk about yourself or to make yourself proud of yourself. You don't want to do that. You have to include example so that it's clear for the interviewer. They should know what you are trying to say. And also, it applies the same for your weakness. For your weakness, you have to come up with examples as well. But one thing that you have to remember is that you have to try to turn your weakness to something positive. Remember, turn your weakness to something positive. Why? Because you want to show that your weakness is actually not a weakness. It's something that also you can learn in order to improve yourself long term. It can help improve yourself as a person, or also you can think of an obstacle that you want to overcome. So something can be your weakness, but you want to change the weakness and want to make it as something positive. So that's something that you really have to think about. So again, I would like to remind yourself, include examples. So you cannot only tell about your strength or weakness, but there are no examples. You have to have examples, and the examples should be very short, one or two. You don't want to present 3 examples because that's a waste of time. So examples should be relevant to your previous experience. Again, remember, pick up examples that you can find from your previous experience. Could be from your work, it could be from your experience in general, but most importantly, think something specific and think something that you could come up with really original examples, not something that you're trying to make up. Because if you are trying to make up, then you would be able to have you would find difficulty to answer that one, and this is very dangerous if you are facing an interview, because you're going to dig your own to dig your own hole in order to come in. So it's not something that you want to do when you are facing an interview. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is the last one. Oh, this isn't the last one, this is the example. Okay. The reason why I want to show you an example is that you are not confused when it comes to preparation, so that you could prepare yourself the best you could. And look at this example. So I would want to read it for you. Focus is definitely something that I'm trying to improve. I usually can't concentrate too long if I work on two different things at once. I understand that it sometimes affects my work. So I'm trying to learn how to stay focused by changing my working style. For example, I organize my workflow by classifying priorities, tasks, and set time limit for each task. Also, I put my phone away and I use sticky notes to remind myself about the task. I realized that my workflow started to get better as well as my focus. So here, if you look at the same as the first example when it comes to tell about yourself, and this example of the answer, I put it in different colors, so it's easy for you to uh, signify the different, or to identify the differences. Okay, look at this one, the first line. Focus is definitely something I'm trying to improve. So this is your weakness. Okay, this is your weakness. So I usually can't concentrate too long if I work on two different things at once. So this is the examples from your work. So you cannot concentrate. I understand that it sometimes affects my work, and you realize that here, you realize that it has a negative effects on your work. But you do something in order to show that you want to improve. So I'm trying to learn how to stay focused by changing my working style. So it shows that you have done something in order to improve your weakness. And then you give example. So this is a pretty detailed example. I organize my workflow, classifying priorities tasks, you set limit, and also you add additional example. You put your phone away, you use sticky notes, and after that you show that you have got something different for the outcome. So here you started to get better as well as your the focus. So here your workflow and also your focus started to get better. So this is the results that you get from learning out of your weakness. So remember, when you're telling your weakness, you need to turn the weakness into something positive that can help you, that can improve you as a person. So this is very important for you to, take an out or to think about when you are trying to provide an answer when it comes to your strength or your weakness. Okay, so now we come to the next question, which is the last one, number 3. Why do you deserve this scholarship? And this is also a question that is often asked to scholarship candidates or to applicants. When you are asked this kind of question, oftentimes you are confused and you start to get anxious and your mind is blank and you're stuck and you have no idea of what to say. And this is what I'm going to teach you. Okay, look at this. So the way you want to answer this question is by doing or giving an answer, and you have to pay attention to two different things. First one, be honest and open. Second, show your passion and persistence. These are things that you want to show when you give an answer. So you have to be honest. Again, You have to be honest and you have to be open. But it's not enough to be honest and open. You also have to show your passion and tell them that you are persistent. And you have to prove that. You have to convince them. You have to convince the scholarship examiners, the scholarship committee, or the one who interview you. And it is the sample answer. Okay. So you want to read it by yourself. I put it in different colors and realize that the first line is something that you are honest about yourself. For example, in high school, I had struggled to learn and felt anxious during exams. So this is something that you experienced before, and this is something honest. So you don't want to lie. And then after reading and doing research in my teams, I was exposed to numerous fascinating results that anxiety can actually be treated. And you realize that even though you face or you struggle to learn and you oftentimes were anxious during exam, but then after doing research with your teams, then finally you realize that the anxiety itself is also something that actually can be treated. And I have always wanted to specialize in learning anxiety to help those struggle to learn in schools. Look at this line in red color, underline. So even though you struggle to learn and you felt anxious, but then afterwards you learn that anxiety is something that you can treat. And as a result of this, as a result of your exposure to this kind of things, positive things, you wanted to say that you wanted to specialize in learning anxiety. Why do you want to specialize in this kind of field? Because your reason is that you want to help those struggle to learn in schools. So because you get or you had an experience, a bad experience, and then you want to learn something to help those feeling the same as you had before, it shows something positive within yourself. And then you realize, and also you would like to say that studying overseas will give you the opportunity to explore the psychology, because learning anxiety has to do with psychology in a wide range of topics. But you realize that's quite expensive and it's impossible for you if you want to fund yourself to study overseas. So one thing that you can do is that to get a scholarship. And you want to tell the scholarship committee is that why you are the right person, because you believe that this scholarship will be able to help you accomplish your goal. What is your goal? Your goal or long-term goal, remember the first question that we discussed earlier, your first goal, long-term, you want to become psychologist. So why do you want to become a psychologist? You want to contribute. How do you contribute? You contribute through research and trainings. So if you look at the whole answer, it provides the same answers you already provided in your first answer, in your first question when you respond to a question related about tell about yourself. You actually come up with the same answers, but you are trying to give it in a different way. And this is something important. You have to learn how to change your answer in a different way, but you have to still present in the same context or in the same direction. You cannot change your answer. You have to be aligned with what you have said. Okay, remember, you have to be aligned with what you have said. And hopefully by watching this video, you could get something important from here and you'll learn something. And this is going to lead you to a very successful interview. And hopefully you will be able to get one of the best scholarships you are aiming or you are intending. All right. So thank you for you who have watched this video. And I hope that you prepare for the best and win the scholarship. Again, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.